So, number 4. So, Ashley Pauls has X-Men First Class. Michael Gordon's Superman 2. Zack Linton has Red, all the way up at number 4.
At 4.
Yeah. Yeah. Who wrote Red? Do you know? Do you guys know?
I have my cell phone out, and I've been
Okay,
looking
look
up
it up.
little things all podcast long.
I don't remember who wrote it.
Helen Mirren.
Yeah, Helen Mirren, Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, so great actors.
John Malkovich. Or was John Malkovich only in... No, he was in the first one.
He was in it?
The graphic novel was by Warren Ellis and Cully Hamner.
All right.
And then the screenplay for the movie was Eric Hober and John Hober.
Okay. Yeah, Warren Ellis is a legend.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, cool. Ben Coberly has Deadpool. Malachi Ward has Akira, which we haven't seen yet. Which is...
I didn't realize that was based off manga, probably.
Yeah. It's one of the only animes I've ever actually seen. So, and I've heard they've been trying for years to get a live-action movie made from that, too. Cody Sherer has...
Ghost in the Shell didn't help.
Yeah. Cody Sherer... Well, I've heard that one of the people they talked to was Jordan Peele.
I love him.
You're giving me weird looks, but...
No.
Okay, you're all for it.
For which character? Or
for Akira.
Oh, cool. Well, whatever he does, I'll watch it.
So I would love to see
his
that.
His first movie was wonderful.
Yeah. Jay hasn't seen it yet, so
I
don't
haven't
spoil it
seen
yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
We're going to rectify that soon.
Yeah, we're going to watch it.
Cody Sherer has Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox, which is also one of my favorite DC animated movies. And it's a story that you also, in some ways, get to see on the Flash TV show. They have a thing they refer to as Flashpoint. It's not nearly as impactful. And apparently, when they get to a solo movie for the Flash in the DCEU, in the movies, that's what it's going to be based on. Nice. Is the Flashpoint.
And you promised me that we'd talk about TV shows in a different podcast, so I don't
We
have to
have to.
sing
We
the
have
praises of the Flash
We
TV
have
show.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do another one of those because there's so many good ones. Matt Kressel has Superman the movie. Eddie has X-Men. X-Men is one we should talk about because in my mind, the first X-Men movie, the Bryan Singer movie, it was a turning point for comic book films. It was kind of like he was coming in saying, look what we can do. Look how good this can be.
Right.
You know? And better films have come out since then, but that was a groundbreaking movie at the time.
It was. And they chose really good actors to portray the different characters in that film, which was really fantastic, too.
And it feels like Iron Man just in the creation of Tony Stark. That's where Hugh Jackman created Wolverine.
Yeah.
And just nailed it from day one.
The only problem I have with that film is I think that in other movies, I'll share like Captain America Civil War, I think does a really good job of saying we have an ensemble cast of all these heroes, but this is really a movie about these two characters.
Yeah. That
film, I think, it lacks a little bit of identity because it's not sure whose film it is, and it's constantly introducing you to new characters, and you're kind of like, okay, fight, okay. So that's my only complaint about that film. But
my other complaint is it started the trend of absolutely mistreating the character of Cyclops in the X-Men movies.
James Marsden's a wonderful actor, but man, is he a wimpy character.
They just butcher it. Cyclops is such an important character to the X-Men lore, and they just castrated him for those movies. It was terrible. Okay, John Pack has Iron Man, Bobby Nash, Superman the movie. Nate Labate has Oblivion, which...
There's no influence from you.
No, not at all. We just did an episode. I got to do an episode on Oblivion with my wife, which was really fun. Technically based on a graphic novel, although the graphic novel never got finished. Somehow it got into the hands of Tom Cruise, and then that skyrocketed into becoming a movie, and Joseph Kosinski never finished the graphic novel. So, David Graham has Batman from 1989. Let's talk about that one for a minute. Where does that fit into your guys' love of Batman films? What did you think of Michael Keaton as Batman when that came out? Were you like, oh, this is awesome? Or were you like, no, Keaton's not Batman?
Well, I would say without Keaton as Batman and without Tim Burton taking over that franchise, I don't know that you would get the Nolan Batman.
It's true.
Because the Nolan Batman basically said, we're going to take this and make it hyper-realistic in a dark way. And until Tim Burton, you didn't really see any dark films that weren't more fringe films.
Tim Burton had to break the Adam West mold first.
Exactly. So I do think that. I think it was good. I think it suffers when you look back at it now. It suffers from the fact of how many good films we've had with how many amazing actors we've had. So like if you compare Jack Nicholson, who is a fantastic actor, and you say like, oh, but then Heath Ledger, and it's like, oh yeah, he's terrible compared to Heath Ledger, right? So I think that's kind of a component where it was a groundbreaking film for its time, but in retrospect, it doesn't quite look as good because you know what can come after it.
Yeah. What did you think of that one?
I think Keaton. There's always the conversation of which actors play a better Batman, which actors play a better Bruce Wayne. I think Keaton's a great Bruce Wayne. I think he's a lot of fun. He plays the rich kid really well. I think he played a good Batman. I grew up with those movies, so they'll always have a special place in my heart, and it's hard to compare them, like you're saying, with all the good movies that came out after that. So it just kind of is its own thing.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it when it came out. I had never had so much anticipation for a movie before in my life. To know that they were finally making a Batman movie that you were taking seriously.
Right.
But looking back on it nowadays, it's so Tim Burton-y. I just don't like Tim Burton. And he almost made a Superman movie, too, with Nicolas Cage, called Superman Lives.
With the glowing suit and
which would have been insane.
Just saying that alone is like, how did that movie not get made, at least by somebody?
There's a documentary about it.
Really?
I think it's called The Death of Superman Lives, or What Happened with The Death of Superman Lives. And
I feel like that
it's
could
really
be
interesting
today. If you said Tim Burton, Nicolas Cage,
I would totally watch it.
I know.
I would probably hate it, but I would totally watch it. Okay, Cate Esera has X-Men First Class, Anthony Holdier, The Dark Knight, Tim Posada, Guardians of the Galaxy, Elvis, Kingsman, Sandra Dimas, Doctor Strange, Caleb Linden, Spider-Man Homecoming, Mike Rinaldi, The Dark Knight, Jim Baldwin, The Shadow, which was a good movie. I'm surprised to see it so high on a list, but I like that movie.
The idea of a building that could cloak kind of blew my mind at the time.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, that's an empty lot until you look hard enough. And then it's the bad guy bit. It's like, oh.
Leo Partible, Wonder Woman, Chris Hayner, The Dark Knight, Hannibal, Tabu, The Avengers, Michael Young, Captain America, Civil War, and Isaac Johnson, Spider-Man 2. So, Justin, what is your number 4?
I was right there with Tim, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's at 4 for you.
It's at 4 for me.
Oh my gosh, I expected it to be higher.
I've got some really good movies higher than that.
Okay.
So we did a podcast on this, like we were saying,
right here
at this table.
The three of us. Exactly.
So I've talked for an hour and a half on how much I love this movie. But the soundtrack, the fun, Chris Pratt just kind of becoming what he is now. People loved him from Parks and Rec, and he had been in a number of movies before then, but this just skyrocketed him. James Gunn brought his just weird sense of humor and his weird visuals to it. It's just a great movie.
It is. It is. Jay, what's your number 4?
Road to Perdition.
I was wondering when we were going to get to
Road to Perdition. I love Road to Perdition.
Again, I'm surprised it's so low. I would have thought you would have had that one higher. I know you love that movie.
No, I love that movie a lot. I think the only reason it's probably showing up this low is because it is based on a graphic novel, but it does not inherently feel like a comic book movie. So there is that dynamic going on with that film. But yeah, no, Road to Perdition is an amazing film. I love it.
I won't spoil who, but it does pop up at number 1 on somebody's list.
What?
Ooh. Yeah.
My new best friend.
No, already a friend of yours.
Okay.
Okay. My number 4 is Captain America: Civil War.
Oh, okay.
You talked about it a little bit before. Justin, you talked about how happy you are that the Russo brothers are taking over the reins.
Yep.
And I am too, because Captain America: Civil War to me is the best superhero ensemble movie ever made.
I wasn't wild.
So good.
I wasn't wild about Age of Ultron. I liked it, but I felt like this was Avengers 2.5. And I could settle with that.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, the introduction of Spider-Man and Black Panther, you would think that's too much. You can't throw that much in, but it totally works.
They made it work, yeah. I agree.
And I love I don't want to rant on about legacy again, like I've always done on these podcasts, but I love the concept of Cap and Bucky. So just kind of getting to explore that a little bit more in this movie, I just love it so much.
My wife and I just went and saw Hamilton, so I'm thinking about legacy a lot. Okay. So anytime you want to talk about that, we're good.
All right. Well, let's get into number 3. So Ashley Pauls has Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Michael Gordon has The Avengers. Zack Linton has Watchmen. Ben Coberly, Captain America: The First Avenger. Malachi Ward has one we haven't talked about yet, which is A History of Violence, which I haven't seen.
That is a comic book, yeah.
But
I haven't seen it either.
I know it's
Vigo.
violent.
I never saw it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Cody Sherer, The Dark Knight. Matt Kressel, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Eddie Sone, Iron Man. John Pack. John, I hope I am deciphering you correctly here. And I hope I can take this literally. And I'll see him this weekend and I'll clarify this. But he has Transformers, the movie. Now, if he's being technical, Transformers, the movie is the technical title of the animated movie from the 80s.
Right, yeah.
Which is a really good movie.
Yeah.
So we're going to go with the benefit of the doubt and say that that's what he's talking about. And hope that...
Before the Bay.
Yeah, I hope that Michael Bay's movies aren't making it onto these top 10 lists. But we'll see. Bobby Nash has Guardians of the Galaxy. Nate has The Rocketeer. David Graham, The Dark Knight. Cate, the Wonder Woman. Asa has Batman, the Keaton film. Anthony Holdier has Winter Soldier. Tim Posada, Deadpool. Elvis has Hellboy. Sandra has Wonder Woman. Caleb Linden has The Dark Knight. Mike Rinaldi has The Winter Soldier. Jim Baldwin has Superman the Movie. Leo Partible, Spider-Man 2. Chris Hayner has Batman Returns, which is the only time we see that one pop up on this list. Which is, it's even more Tim Burton-y than the other one.
It is.
But there's some great stuff in that movie too. Hannibal Tabu has Batman from 1989. Michael Young has The Dark Knight, and Isaac Johnson has X2, X-Men United. Jay, what's your number 3?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
There
Still
it is
my
again.
favorite. Still my favorite Marvel movie.
So
Just
you
a
have Road to
fantastic
Perdition at
film.
4 and Guardians of the Galaxy at 3.
I do.
I can officially no longer predict your top 2 films.
Oh no, my top 2 films are good too. We did a whole podcast on Guardians of the Galaxy. Go listen to it. It's meaningful to me personally.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
Justin, what's your number 3?
I put
Scott
Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh,
Whoa.
Sandra
So-
Dimas would be so happy with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
People may not agree with this, but my goodness, that movie has more rewatch value for me than just about any other film ever.
Wow.
I
Okay.
love the music. I love the visuals. Edgar Wright is one of my very favorite directors. We're talking about how Zack Snyder is so good with his visuals. Edgar Wright's really good with visuals in a different way, but he tells stories visually really quickly and like makes jokes visually differently than I've ever seen anyone do it. And then I think it has some good things to say about unhealthy relationships and coming of age, and it combines video games and comic books in some really funny ways.
Has some really good cameos in it too.
Yeah, Chris Evans plays the antithesis of Captain America.
He basically plays Wolverine without the claws.
Without the claws.
Yeah.
But, oh man, that movie cracks me up.
Okay, my number 3 is Wonder Woman. Which I love. We have to do an episode on Wonder Woman at some point.
Yeah. Sure.
It's just so optimistic. There's just something so great to me about a superhero who will literally come out and say, I believe in love.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I don't think we've ever heard a superhero say something like that. So just the optimism in that movie. The visuals are beautiful, like the colors.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And
that's where I think the Zack Snyder influence was really good for that film.
That's true, but a lot of it is actually straight from Patty Jenkins.
Oh, sure. I'm just saying, like tone and like some of those things. Being able to for her to say, how do I put my visuals in a world that fits his visuals?
Yeah.
I think is really amazing.
Yeah.
Fight scene choreography.
Yeah, I was watching a behind the scenes bit on it, and there's a part where it's the no man's land scene, where they're shooting her crossing no man's land, and they're pumping on set. They're pumping bright blue smoke into the sky.
Really?
And it's Chris Pine talking, and so he went and asked Patty Jenkins. He's like, "Why blue smoke?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, it will read differently on screen, but it interacts really well with different people's costumes, and it has just this hint of mysticalness to it, and it sets Wonder Woman apart from all the other characters because there's a little bit of color in there."
Yeah.
So I know Snyder had his influence, but
it's
clear that Patty
I don't
Jenkins
mean to take anything away from Patty
brilliant.
Jenkins at all.
Yeah.
And I'm going to rant about it some more because it actually shows up in one of my on my list. Though.
And Patty Jenkins is now officially the highest paid female director of all time.
Well deserved.
And she had the biggest female directed film of all time. And I've heard that so they're working on the deal for the sequel.
Yeah.
And I've heard that not only is she going to be the highest paid female director again, but she's going to be making money that's on par with what they were paying Zack Snyder for Justice League and Man of Steel and everything.
Well deserved.
And that movie resonated with people because at least right now it's the second highest grossing movie in the USA of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it hit a chord with people.
Yeah, it did. Okay, let's move on to number 2. So on our list, we have Ashley with Guardians of the Galaxy at number 2. Michael Gordon has Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. Zach Linton has Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. Ben has the Avengers. We're starting to see a lot of the same stuff now.
Yeah.
Except for this one, Malachi Ward has American Splendor.
I'm not even sure what that is.
It's more of a
Paul
comedy.
Giamatti?
Yeah, it's more of a comedy, but it is based on a graphic novel.
All right.
It's one of those really kind of interesting off-kilter ones. Cody Sherer has Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Matt Kressel and Eddie Sone both have Superman 2, but Matt Kressel's Superman 2 is specifically called out as the Donner Cut. Have you guys heard about that?
Only because I worked at Best Buy and had to shelf Blu-rays.
So what it is, halfway through, or not about halfway, but partway through the making of Superman 2, they fired Richard Donner and replaced him with a different director.
No way.
Yeah. I don't remember why. So there are all these elements that Richard Donner had, and then this other director comes in and finishes off the movie. So the Donner cut seeks to sort of recreate what Richard Donner would have done.
Oh.
And it does it using some footage that wasn't included before. It does it using some test screen footage, some screen test footage. So it's awkward because there's a part where Clark and Lois will be talking, and then it cuts to a whole different room, and it's a younger Christopher Reeve wearing totally different clothes. But dialogue-wise and script-wise, there's a through line to it. So it's really interesting, but you do get an idea of what Richard Donner would have done, and I think it would have been cool.
Cool.
Okay, so John Pack has Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire movie. Mm-hmm. Bobby Nash has Blade.
All right.
Nate Labate, 300. David Graham, Superman the movie.
Nate Labate, 300.
Yeah.
Oh, that shocks me.
Really?
Yeah, I would never have thought you would have put it that high.
Oh.
There you go.
Too dark?
Good for you, Nate.
He's a real optimistic dude. So
yeah, he is. I would have, yeah.
All right. Well, let's get Nate on here and talk about 300 and we'll see what happened there. David Graham has Superman the movie. Cate Esera has Captain America, the First Avenger. Asa, Guardians of the Galaxy. Anthony Holdier, X-Men 2. Tim Posada, Civil War. Elvis, The Dark Knight. Sandra Dimas, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Oh, there you go.
One of the biggest Edgar Wright fans I've ever met.
Yeah.
Only put that at number 2. So we'll see what happens with number 1. Caleb has Deadpool. Mike Rinaldi has Watchmen. Jim Baldwin, Captain America, the First Avenger. Leo Partible, The Dark Knight. Chris Hayner has Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yep.
Hannibal Tabu has Blade. Michael Young has Blade 2, which is interesting.
Guillermo del Toro directed that one, I think.
Yeah.
That guy has some incredible visuals and some storytelling problems also.
And I think a very broken brain. Like, how do you come up with some of the stuff that he does? It's creepy. Yeah. And Isaac Johnson's Superman the movie. So, Justin, what's your number 2 film?
This is where The Dark Knight fell for me. I love the Christopher Nolan trilogy of The Dark Knight.
How do you not? How could nobody love that? I don't understand.
I always go back and forth between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight as my favorite. in that trilogy because I love them both for different reasons, and I'm just so happy that those movies were made. They're wonderful, wonderful movies.
Yep.
No question.
Jay, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Wonder Woman.
Okay.
And so just to add to what you guys have already said about it, we need to do a podcast about it, no question. What a fantastic female lead character. I mean, let me say it differently. What a fantastic lead character. What an amazing thing that they made a female character in that way. Did not take... I think that they get so many things right without trying to force their way into paradigms that a lot of people would like them to force their way into.
Uh-huh.
She's very feminine. They didn't try and force masculinity on her, which they have done in some of the comics. The relationship she has with Chris Pine, they did not take him and like make him look foolish, which would have been an easy call for them to make.
And they also did not... They found a way to strike a balance of her falling in love with a man, even though she's been raised to believe that men are inferior.
Yes.
And they found a way to make her fall in love with a man without compromising what she was raised to believe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I think that Gal Gadot is probably the best choice. And when they made that choice, I'm like, she's like 90 pounds. Like, how is she going to fight anybody? But not only is she, like... She brings a respect to that character and a presence to that character that I think would be almost impossible to find in a bunch of different people. So there's no point in time where you are, I think, there's no point in time when she's trying to be a vixen or sexy or whatever. She's just being, I'm going to be me, I'm going to be respectable, and you're going to respect me because of it. Yeah. And you do. It's just amazing. Like I can't say that good enough. So, number 2 for sure. I recently rewatched it and just loved it. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. My number 2, so I talk about legacy.
Yeah.
Legacy. That's my thing. My number 2 film is, in my opinion, the superhero movie that has handled legacy better than any other superhero movie ever has, which is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
I was wondering if that was going to show up on your list. Yeah,
of course it is.
Oh, so I was thinking, like, where's it coming?
Yeah, and at this point we've done episodes of the podcast on almost all of these because these are all the best ones. But
yeah,
man, I love that movie. It's one of the things I always say about how much I love it is it's kind of not a superhero movie. It's a different kind of movie that has superheroes in it.
Yeah.
And just the relationship between Cap and Bucky, the direction of the Russo brothers, Robert Redford as the villain is fantastic.
He was a really good villain.
Yeah. I really, really love that movie. So, and I'm super excited to see what happens with Infinity War, with the Russo brothers taking on something bigger and more cosmic. And
absolutely.
Oh, I can't wait.
That was a good film. Didn't make my list, though.